great news, Kateline. I got a killer cold open, although I'm not happy about it, okay? It's going to make me look terrible. But I'm going to do it for you and the HOLTHEADS.
Okay.
So, as you know, I'm burning through SVU. I'm on season 3 right now. And there's one episode where Kragen, the captain, he says databank.
Oh, no.
Crime lab ran the DNA on Sophie through the databank.
Just last week, we were talking about one of the Canuck detectives who said databank, and I said that felt weird. Like maybe that's the Canadian version of saying database. And then, flash forward to this SVU ep, a very American television show, and what do I hear? Captain Kragen himself say databank.
Through the databank?
I flip. I'm frozen. And I'm going, oh no, oh no. And then I said, wait a minute. Actor Dan Florek, who portrays Kragen, I said, what if that actor's from Canada? Hop on the Goog, look it up. No, he's from Michigan. So then I said, okay, fine. What if the director is from Canada? Hop on the Goog. He's Greek, not Canadian. No. So then I did what I should have done from the jump, which was Google this shit. And guess what I've discovered? A collection of databases equals one data bank.
Interesting.
What do you think about that?
I did not know that.
So I stand corrected, but
Okay.
I say boots on the street.
That's still wrong.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
I'm Lester Holt.
Howdy, HOLTHEADS. Kurt Money here, alongside my co-host.
Kateline.
And man, we got a doozy for y'all today, okay? As promised, this is the FF one. This was the Dateline that's about a case that was featured on Forensic Files, a show that is very near and dear to my heart. Now, before we jump in, this episode aired April 26th, 2024. Here is the IMDb description. A woman goes missing and investigators uncover her husband's chilling history, including dark secrets about another missing wife. Not bad. Here's the KMDB.
Let's hear it.
3 wives, 2 girlfriends, and 1 box. What's in the box?
What's in the box?
Oh.
What do you think, Kate? Is that good?
It's good. The box.
Yeah.
There was a smell coming from the box.
Okay, this is a beast of an episode because this guy, it's called Chameleon, by the way, hosted by AC, looking good.
Here's Andrea Canning with Chameleon.
AC coming in with the shoulders.
A lot of shoulder work in this.
A lot of shoulder work, and I thought she was having fun. I thought she was really having fun in this. But hit me with your overalls.
You know, you were excited about this one for a long time, and you have every right to be because this was bananas.
Yep.
I couldn't believe the twists and turns and that stuff just kept unraveling, and boy, did I hate this guy.
Yeah, he sucks big time.
Monstrous.
Now, the FF on this is only about one aspect of this case. And when I say this episode is a doozy, Kateline, I got doozies to tell you about this case in general that are going to floor you. But I'm going to take all that FF stuff and all these bombs, placing them at the end.
Okay.
We're just going to talk about this like a Dateline app, straight up.
Whew.
We'll muck it up if I try and go, okay, but the book said this and then FF said this.
Right.
Because I could do that, but it's not a good idea.
We'd be here for hours.
True. This story begins in the Poconos, 1991. We've got Fran and John Smith are on a belated honeymoon.
The Poconos. What's going on in the Poconos?
I know.
This is the second episode back to back, right?
2 weeks ago, because it was Robert Atkins, the drunk Frosty.
I wasn't, but I am now.
But yeah, Poconos are popping off, but Fran gets out of the tub, slips and falls, straight up breaks her hip. I mean, this is a real bummer, or as AC called it,
What a honeymoon from hell.
one of many AC gems tonight. So they go back to home in New Jersey, John goes back to work, and Fran is holed up at home, faced with this recovery to get through. And she's on the phone with her family in Texas every other day because they're worried about her because she can't move. And she lives in like a 3-story walk-up condo and she's stuck there. But then one day, Fran's daughter can't get a hold of her and she can't find her anywhere.
Which was really strange.
It was really strange.
Yeah, because she's barely going out at this point.
So she calls John directly at work and says, John, where the hell's Fran? We can't get a hold of her. And what's John's response?
John says, oh, I don't know. She left town.
He said, I thought she was with you.
What?
Dee Dee's like, no, John, that's why we're calling. And he's like, oh, well,
Yeah.
maybe she's in Florida. And Dee Dee's like, no, John, she's not in Florida.
She's not.
She's not with her sister. Like, no one knows where she is. Oh, well,
Yeah.
maybe she left with a friend and she just had to get away. okay, but she would have told me that, John. And then he starts to reveal, oh, well, she did leave a note.
Yep.
And saying that she was unhappy and needed a break and left.
And don't forget to feed the fish.
And don't forget to feed the fish.
Be sure to feed the fish.
But I didn't keep the note, so...
Right. Yeah.
I asked to see the note, and John said, well, I guess I should have kept it, but I threw it out.
We don't know where Fran is. John doesn't know, but John doesn't, he has zero concern for this. Fran's sister, Sherry, and Fran's daughter, Dee Dee, they're terrified because they can't get a hold of Fran. Like, they're in Texas, and so they force John, they got to tell him this a billion times. Hey, go file a missing persons report about your wife, please. Like, they got to talk him into that.
And it takes a couple days for him to do that.
Yes, it does. But he finally does it. And then good old Sherry calls up the police afterwards just to follow up, which is, we're going to be talking about Sherry and Dee Dee a lot tonight because they're pretty dope. Mm-hmm. Okay? They're pretty awesome. And they gave her the same song and dance that we hate with a passion. Hey, Fran's an adult. If she wants to leave, she can.
And he said, she's an adult. She can leave.
Never mind that she's in a hip cast and can't walk, but she's a grown woman, okay? Maybe she just had to get away for a little bit. That's what the cops are trying to tell Sherry and Dee Dee.
Yeah, and someone would have come over to the house. They would have had to carry her down the stairs and put her in a car and then carry all her stuff down too.
Yeah.
And then no one knows who this person is or where they were going. It is suspicious.
Very suspicious. So, 4 months after the murder, there's not a lot going. John still doesn't care. Sherry and Dee Dee decide we got to go there. They call John and say, hey, we're coming to New Jersey. Get ready for us. John tries to put them in a hotel, and they said, no. We'll be staying with you, John. Mm-hmm. We'll be bunking up with you. So they come and stay with John, and they're going to do the stuff that he's refusing. But again, he's all smiles. What does he tell them when they arrive? He's got to go to work, but what's his game plan here for his guests?
He's like, okay, ladies, make yourself comfortable. Here are the keys. And they're like, yeah. Boom.
And he said, oh, here, hand us keys and make yourself at home. And I said, thank you very much. That's all I needed.
They take the keys.
Yep.
They start looking around.
Yep.
And they find two big things.
Yeah.
One, a stack of missing person flyers that they had mailed to John and asked him to put up around the neighborhood. And he did not.
Which he said he did.
He said he did, and there they are sitting in a drawer.
They were all in the closet. The packages had not even been opened.
And two, in a storage locker outside, they find the suitcase that he said she left with.
Yeah, supposedly she left with a yellow suitcase. And it's like, well, that's not true either because it's sitting right here.
Yep. Among all the other things that a woman would take if she were leaving.
Yeah. So now that Sherry and Dee Dee are in town, they connect with the cops. And this is when we're introduced to Detective Dansbury. Now, both our detectives today had mustaches, but this one was the quieter one, taller, and had hair.
Oh, yeah.
Dansbury meets with these ladies in New Jersey, tells them something that shocks them, that they had no idea about. Something about John's past that he did not care to share with his new wife, Fran.
He was married before.
Yep.
And that wife also went missing.
Yes. Now, when Fran and John met, he's like 10 years her junior. Like, he's a 39-year-old Mennonite bachelor. Like, that was his selling point to these ladies, apparently.
He's Mennonite?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Not only... Okay, so these ladies... and we'll meet most of them, they all said that there was just something about him that he was like the answer to their prayers. He was like sent from God. And as soon as they met him...
Yeah, they literally said those words.
As soon as they met him, they were just in love.
When I met John Smith, it was like God had heard my prayers and sent him to me.
And I don't get it.
And one look at this guy.
One look at this guy. I mean, between his crazy eyes and his like weird mouth.
Yes.
And the fact that everyone
This
said
weird comb over.
he was like overly nice.
And loud.
Ugh.
They talked about how he was loud.
This guy.
Apparently a lady killer.
Ladies, come on.
Yeah. So now... Sherry and Dee Dee find out about Janice. They want to know a whole lot more about her because they didn't know she existed yesterday. But the problem is that Dansbury tells them, okay, well, so Sherry and Dee Dee want to track down Janice's family. And there's one brother, Gary Hartman, that's out there, but they don't know how to get a hold of him. But he's the only one in the family that might still live around because the other one was like in the military or something. So this is one of many moments that crowned Sherry and Dee Dee all-stars in the biggest way. Kateline, tell us about this 411 business because it's pretty awesome.
Oh, man. So these ladies need to find Gary Hartman, and they have to do it old school because this is pre-internet.
Yep.
So they get to the phones and they keep calling operators in and around the areas where they thought Gary might live. And
yeah, we're talking Michigan, Ohio, Indiana. Like, this is crossing state lines.
It's crazy. And when they call an operator and ask for information, usually the operator would only give out one or two at the most numbers.
Yeah.
But as soon as they would tell them about what's happening, about how their mother is missing and there's other women out there and blah, 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 they would always get more numbers than typically allowed. And I have to think that's like, woman to woman, like, oh, girl,
yeah.
Okay, I'm going to set you up.
Yeah.
So they'd get a whole list of numbers.
I love that.
So are you just calling all the Gary Hartmans and then
leaving a message?
And they get a call back from one of these Gary Hartmans, and he says, hey, Janice is my sister. What's this about?
I said, I think our sisters had something in common. I think they were both married to John David Smith. And I heard this.
Gary says, ladies, buckle up.
And he said, lady, you got a problem.
Because my sister was married to John, they got divorced, and immediately after, she was never seen again.
Yeah, she's been missing since November 20th of 1974, okay? And we're in the mid-90s right now in this story. That's crazy.
Goosebumps.
What up? Future Kurt here for one of two visits today. I know I said I was going to talk about the FF later, but forgot to tell Kate that Gary Hartman is featured in the Forensic Files.
He rode a motorcycle at the time, and she was that type of person that wanted to be on a fast item, whatever it was.
He's not in the Dateline. I don't know if he's since passed, but he was a nice dude, and he was on the FF. So anyway, back to the show, and I'll see you in about 30. All right, so now Sherry and Dee Dee are hooked up with Gary, and he wants to find stuff out too, because, he had also heard the thing that maybe she joined a commune in Florida. But, all these stories about where Janice potentially went, they all began with John Smith.
He made that up.
So
he said, she went and joined a commune in Florida. That's his idea.
Yes. Yeah.
Just like Fran took her yellow suitcase and went to get away.
Yeah.
The detectives learned Janice Hartman had been declared legally dead many years earlier.
Okay, so now they're connected with Gary, and it's around this time that one of the detectives, Mansu, goes to talk to John Smith's brother, Michael. Now, we talked to Michael a few times, and we don't get to the good stuff on this first one. What happens with this first interview?
Not a lot.
Not a lot, but we do learn a lot about the relationship between Michael and John. Michael's the black sheep, John was the favorite child. And so they learn about that, and then Mansu was saying that he felt like they were about to get somewhere, and then old Granny Smith busts through the door and says, get the hell out of here, we're not talking to the coppers.
Ethel Cheney started screaming at Michael, and then basically threw us out of the house.
So they were that close, and then this is when AC says, maybe the line of the ep. Do you remember what it was?
No.
If you don't, I'm going to say it right now. She goes, it's getting hot in the kitchen.
Oh, yep. And the detectives love it. They're like, it's hot in the kitchen.
It's getting hot in the kitchen.
Yeah, it's getting real hot in the kitchen. Yeah, we're on to something here. We just don't know what we're on.
I was cracking up.
These dudes were cracking me up because the guy on the left, what's his name? Mansu?
Yeah, Detective Mansu.
Thick Jersey accent.
Yeah.
Gained a lot of information from him.
Guy on the right doesn't say much.
No, he says what he has to.
And you'll hear him, Mansu will be going on, and then you'll hear the other guy go, yep.
Mm-hmm. I kind of loved his delivery of a one-word answer. It was kind of refreshing. Because AC was like, so did this happen? He just goes, yeah. Okay, moving on. Let's see what else happened in this story, right?
Kurt, it's like you and me.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so now we get to John's first interview, where John actually comes down to the police station and talks to detectives. One, he takes a polygraph test and fails it miserably, but who cares, because who knows? But he does sit down for an interview, and this is one of many, I'll tease my list, but my list is coming up a little bit today.
Well, we kind of did all the things that you see on TV that the cops do, interviewing the suspects.
Mike's going through the cat and mouse with John.
And John, they talked to John Smith for 12 hours. Guy doesn't even take his jacket off until hour 9. John Smith, cool as a cucumber.
Psycho.
John was free to go.
I mean, that alone, to sit inside for 9 hours straight with your jacket still on. My God, I want to press charges for that.
Totally.
No thanks.
Between that, the eyes, the weird mouth, the comb over.
Yep.
Lock him up.
Yep. Lock him up. Okay, so then Sherry and Dee Dee shift their focus to the house in Connecticut because John Smith owned a house in Connecticut that Fran knew about, and Fran had wanted to go to the house. She wanted to live there. Like, forget New Jersey, let's live there. And John was like, oh, it's not winterized. We couldn't live there. It's no good. Sorry, we can't do it. And I'm renting it to somebody or something. And we're trying to figure out who is in that house. Someone lives there. Sherry and Dee Dee don't know who. So again, Sherry and Dee Dee say, what awesome little trick are we gonna do? What do they do, Kateline? What do they do to find out about this house?
Again, they hit the phones.
Yup.
They call the house and they pose as like insurance adjusters or representatives from an insurance company. And they call and a woman picks up and they say, Mrs. Smith.
Smart.
You know, shot in the dark.
Yeah.
Let's just say that's who it is. And the woman says, yes.
Yes.
And they're like, oh, damn. And then they say, you know, you've had a lot of bad weather, a lot of storms recently. We're just calling to see if we can help you get some maintenance done on the house if you need work done. And she's like, oh, we were lucky we didn't get any damage, but thank you. And they have what they need.
Yeah.
There's someone in that house who goes by Mrs. Smith.
And we're like, oh, okay. Thank you. We hang up the phone and we're like, polygamy? What is he doing?
So they run over to the detectives and give them that info. And because the cops had gone over there, they love telling them this. We don't have cause, ladies. Like, they wanted the cops to find out who lived in this house. And they're like, we have no reason to do that. So we can't. So they had just like slipped their card under the door. But now that these ladies give them this new info, they dig it up and they find out that the woman who lives there is named Sheila Smith. Now, who is Sheila Smith to John Smith, Kateline?
Sheila is his longtime girlfriend of 8 years.
8 years.
It's very weird that she's using his last name. I guess common law, but they don't mention that.
Weird.
So
yeah.
She has no idea that he's married. She's just his girlfriend, and she thinks that he lives with her and is just away a lot.
Yeah.
And that they're probably going to get married.
Yeah. And so the detectives break it to Sheila, like they've been doing to all these women in John Smith's life, is where they're like, not only is John Smith married right now and that wife is missing, he was previously married and that wife is still missing. Mm-hmm. So now we're a little concerned about you, and Sheila's pretty shook, obviously, because
she had no idea.
Flooring information. So they do one of their favorite moves. How do they pounce on this with Sheila?
They ask Sheila to record a phone call with John.
Yeah.
And this call is nuts.
It's nuts, and I got to give mad props to Sheila.
Yes, because she just found all this crazy stuff out, and she's got to go pretend like with a clear enough head to confront him about it. And she does in this call. She's like, John? And he's like, Sheila? Like, what are you doing calling me?
Yeah.
Hello?
John?
Yes. Sheila?
What is going on?
Well, let me tell you what's going on, babe.
And she's like, John, you have a wife and she's missing? Where is she? And he's like, I don't know. And she's like, no. What do you mean you don't know?
Yeah.
He's like, everybody says I should know, but I don't know. And then she's like, okay, what about the other wife? And he's like, Janice, we got divorced.
Janice?
She joined a commune. I don't know.
Yeah.
And he's playing it cool. And she's like, dude, you got to start telling me the truth. And he's all, I am.
Yeah, and
she's like, no, you're not.
Yeah, he says,
I thought we were together. And he's like, well, Fran left me because of you.
Yeah, right. Now this is one more level of mean on John Smith to put that on her. Like, what a dick.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he tries to twist it so it's a little bit her fault. So it'll, like, make her want to not press him on it.
She seemed to think that my heart was in Connecticut.
Yep.
And Sheila's like, uh-huh. Okay.
Uh-huh, sure.
Why me?
She seemed to think that even though I was with her, that my heart was in Connecticut.
I remember one of the specific moments where Sheila, because they talk about the lie detector test, and she says, John, did you lie on the lie detector test? And he says, I failed the test. And she goes, John, no. Did you lie? And she makes him answer.
Did you take a polygraph test?
Yes, absolutely, yes.
And you lied?
I failed it.
Wait, John, did you lie during the test?
Yes, I lied during the test.
Remember that for later. Be good that we got that on record.
Mm-hmm.
But I love Sheila because she's in this state of shock and she's pressing him and I'm like, no, answer the question I asked, John. So bravo, Sheila.
And she's not getting hysterical. She's not like crying.
No.
She's very clear-headed. And she gets what they need.
They don't quite get what they need, though, because they did not get anything that allows them to arrest him or serve any more search warrants. Because it's at this point where this case goes cold, right?
Yeah.
So it's cold for a few years, but during this time, Sherry and Dee Dee are not giving up the cause. They're bugging the hell out of John at whatever work he's at, right? So let's bring up move number 3 by them of what they do.
Every time I found out where he was working, I wrote, not human resources, that's a waste. You write to the receptionist. She knows everything. She tells everything.
And she'd say, hey, I just want you to know that you got like this murdering sociopath working there now. Okay, bye. And it worked because...
And just a heads up, he always meets these women at work. Yeah. So keep an eye out for all the women that are around him. It works. He keeps moving around from job to job.
Don't mess with Sherry.
I've always said, if I ever go missing, I want those 2 girls looking for me.
Ditto.
And meanwhile, Dansbury and Mansu, I mean, this thing's dead in the water. They can't do anything with it. I mean, I think they literally say dead in the water.
I asked him, hey, whatever happened with that case? And he said it's dead in the water, that guy got away with at least 2 murders that we know of.
Because now introduces Bob Hilland, FBI, a guy who might be 7 foot tall. Is he 7 foot tall?
Big guy. Big guy.
He's tall.
I like him. He's cool.
Love him. Yep.
This is your classic guy who can't stop thinking about this case.
Yep.
It's destroying relationships. It's destroying everything around him.
Yep.
You know, you got the wife in the kitchen going, it's this job that's tearing us apart.
Yeah.
You know, that whole thing. And he says multiple times, like, he became obsessed. It ruined, he almost was fired over it.
Yeah.
Because he just couldn't let it go.
We know that's not where the story ends.
No. I persisted.
So now Hillen's on the case, and he's going through stuff, and he finds a picture of a woman associated with John. But how did she recognize it, and why was AC so pumped?
Oh, because it was a portrait of a woman taken at a Glamour Shots in the mall.
Yep.
And AC was like, oh, I remember those. And then he goes, I bet you do.
Yeah, he does say that.
I was like, wait, what do you mean by that?
Yeah.
Is this like a flirtation? Are you trying to say like, yes, she'd be in the mall doing those Glamour Shots? Or was it just like, did he mean to say it in such a sassy way?
Because it's definitely sassy. I mean, it's trying to say something.
Love it.
The bottom right corner had a logo of a photo studio called Glamour Shots.
I remember those.
You remember those? I'm sure you do.
He sees Glamour Shots on there, so he tracks down the studio it was shot at and finds the person in it. And it takes some prodding, but she agrees to meet with him. Now, why does she not want to meet with Hilland about John Smith? This mystery woman, we never learn her name.
She is married, but had an affair with John. She cheated on her husband with John.
Yeah.
And fell in love with him. Because, again, this guy is just so irresistible.
Yeah.
But she's the one who tells them that he's actually now living out in Escondido, California, which nobody knew.
Yeah, we didn't know where the hell John was.
And then she tells me, as you well know, Agent Hilland, John Smith moved to Escondido, California.
This is exactly what you needed.
Exactly what I needed.
Now, she's not with him anymore because he had, like, recently gone radio silence on her. Like, wasn't responding to anything. And so she called a friend out in California. Was like, hey, what's up with John? Where is he? And that friend on California says, oh, he's out wedding shopping with his fiancée, Diane. What?
You need a football diagram for all of John Smith's women.
For sure. For sure. He was the man.
Yes, this is a new woman in John's life. Yes, he's engaged, and yes, they will get married. But this was a shock to our married woman because John was trying to get her to break up her marriage to marry him. So, like, he's got to have something with getting married. He, like, really loves it or something.
He loves being married, and he loves murdering his wives.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. So now we know John's in Escondido, California. So Hilland looks into this Diane because now, I mean, Sherry and Dee Dee hear about Diane and they're worried because they know that John kills his wives.
Right.
So they hear that John's going to have a new wife. Like, we got to get her out of there. But Hilland presents an alternative option that Diane goes for, and that's that he only kills people when they leave him. So why don't you stay with him and actually move in with you and your daughter and tell us stuff while it's happening? And she says, yes.
I would not have done that.
What do you think about this?
I would not have done that.
Hell no.
To potentially put your daughter in danger as well. Now, luckily, the daughter is kind of what keeps them safe in the end, but...
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Because we knew why he kills. And so if I'm there, you know...
If you're there and she's not leaving him...
Yeah.
maybe she'll be okay.
She'll be safe as long as I'm with her.
But now Hilton makes his big move, okay? He approaches John at a dealership because, of course, he worked at some high-end dealership, right?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Do we really think it was high-end?
No, they said it was La Forza. What's that? Is that fancy?
Oh, that's an Italian company.
Yeah.
European imports. So I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
Why a Mennonite with a comb-over would be the guy you want representing European imports.
We introduced ourselves and we said, we'd like to talk to you, John.
Hilton goes up to him in the parking lot, and we got shots of this too, because he's out there with his paps. He's taking paparazzi shots, but he's getting McDonald's, he's leaving work, he's doing this.
This is a photo of that moment.
And this is when I realized how friggin' tall Hilland is, because I think he was taller than that fence that they were standing by. It's a shocking picture.
And fences are typically 6 feet.
Oh my God, you're right. Good call. Okay, well, I guess over 6 foot isn't that crazy. Anyway.
But he could be 7.
That's true. If I'm going to guess, 6'7". 6'7".
All right.
So, but Hilland says, hey, John, do you mind just coming to talk with us for a little bit?
And he said, what is this about? Well, it's about your missing wives.
So they go to a nearby hotel, and Hilland's been waiting for this. What's the setup like in this room where they're going to go talk to John?
They basically decorated it with posters on the walls showing, like, I don't think it was one of the posters where it has the red thread going to all the different leads, but they created these diagrams with a picture of him in the center and then all these people that are connected to him, the missing wives, the girlfriends, other people in his life, and they're like, John, what do you think's going on here?
Well, yeah, and he says,
what do all these people have in common?
Yeah.
And he's like, me?
Yeah. And also, Hilland informs him that all these people on the wall, as we speak right now in this hotel room, are being interviewed by other agents all across the country right now. That's a pretty cool thing, yeah?
It's not really true, but it's...
No, wait, it is true. It's 100% true.
Right now, at this very moment, all of these people, no.
Yeah, they coordinated a day where they would be interviewing everybody at the same time so that nobody could get wise and tell John something ahead of time.
About 25 investigators around the country simultaneously started interviewing people close to John, his mother, his co-workers, his brother Michael.
So this was a huge swing that Hilland got the FBI to pay for. It didn't give him much.
Yeah, I'm just surprised that they were able to coordinate something like that for a case that nobody wanted him to even be on.
I know but I'm telling you, it's for real.
All right.
You really believe me?
I believe you.
So Hilland talks to John, and John is playing it cool still. I bet he still has his jacket on.
Mm-hmm.
But now we're getting some good stuff, okay? Because Hilland is telling John, we heard what you said to Sheila. We heard you say this. And he's saying, no, I didn't. He's doing his classic lying.
Mm-hmm.
So what's Hilland pull out of his pocket, throw on the table? A recording of John saying these things. And how's John take it?
There's not a whole lot he can do. He's been caught, but he doesn't want to give in and admit anything.
Well, he did make one little sound, which Hilland was kind enough to reproduce for us.
Y'all.
Okay, what did John do when he was caught in a lie?
Hilland noticed something else. Something creepy.
What was his reaction?
He made a weird baby cry noise. And AC was like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
A baby cry noise.
Yep.
And Hilland does it. And we're going to play it here, but it was also something like... Which is like, that alone is funny. But that also seems like that was the true him coming out, like the psycho version of him switching.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because that's a different personality kind of thing. And yes, it's hilarious, but it's also terrifying.
What does that sound like? Someone stepping on a cat?
It sounded like he went... Yeah, that's what he did.
But Hilland's pumped, and he's thinking, all right, John's about to spill. And then John Smith, what's he do? He says, oh, no, I don't feel so good. This dude.
My arm. My arm.
He says he's having a heart attack.
He fakes a heart attack, but it's policy. They have to get him an ambulance.
They have to.
And while they're wheeling him out.
This is so fun.
He smirks and winks at Hilland.
Oh.
And Hilland's like,
wow.
Man, this guy.
John looks up at me and he winks at me. And at that moment when he winked at me, my blood was boiling because I knew this was all nonsense.
That wink said a lot.
It certainly said a lot to me.
It's all an act.
That is a trailer moment in the movie based on this story.
Yes.
That wink right there.
Oh my God.
It's wild that he did it, considering how he lost some points in that room with the cat squeal and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But before the heart attack happens, a note was slid under the door. And that is a note informing Hilland that John's brother Michael is talking in Ohio. That's all it says.
The paper said, Michael is talking in Ohio.
John's brother.
Yes.
So now let's transfer over to Ohio, where Detective Mansu is once again talking to Michael. And he's telling him, I'm getting in his face going, there's something you want to tell somebody. We got to figure out a way for you to tell it to me right now.
Yeah.
Mansu talks to him, and we get more of their family dynamic and stuff, but he still doesn't get any info that helps him out. So at the end of this day, Hilland is frustrated and shattered because this was a huge swing and a huge miss. But then, a few days pass by. He gets a call from Michael Smith's lawyer. Michael's got a story he wants to tell you, but we got to work out an immunity deal before he starts talking. Is that something you'd be interested in? And how's Hilland take that? Is he interested in talking to Michael?
He's very interested.
Oh, yeah. This is where this thing cracks wide open.
Yeah.
Okay, so they bring in Michael. And Michael says, okay, I'm about to tell you a story. You got to forget everything else I told you before. But what you're about to hear, you're not going to believe. And Hilland agrees.
Right.
He said, what I'm about to tell you, you're probably not going to believe. And he was right.
Michael tells Hilland about a Thanksgiving back in the 70s where he sees John out in the garage building a box.
It was 1974, only a few days after John's first wife Janice was reported missing. Michael saw his brother working in that garage.
And he doesn't know what the box is for. He gets in a fight with John about it and storms out. He comes back later to see that John is still building this box, and he's rolling clothes up and putting it in there, and he's also crying.
What struck Michael as most unusual was that he saw John crying when he was doing this.
So he doesn't know what is going on with this box in the garage. But then 5 years pass. Michael's home from work for lunch and gets a call from his grandpa. What does grandpa telling him?
That he needs to come look inside this box that he found after many years.
Because it's been sitting in the middle of their garage.
And Michael remembers this is that stupid box that John built on Thanksgiving. And they go and look in it, and they find what they believe are Janice's remains.
Janice looking right back at him.
And her limbs have been severed.
Just her legs were severed below the kneecaps.
And that her hair looked like a wig. It was rainbow colored.
Yeah, which is a weird detail.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing he noticed, he specifically said it looked like a clown's wig.
But this was not a wig, was it?
It was not.
And actually, another weird detail is when 5 years had passed, so the body would have decomposed, you wouldn't be able to tell it's Janice Hartman. So they were trying to think there was a funeral home next door. But I don't think John went and got stuff. I think just because of the way it was stored.
Well, it was wrapped in like a tight shroud. But I buy that maybe he had stolen some embalming fluid because you would have smelled that all throughout the house.
Well, the garage wasn't attached to the house. It was a separate garage with 2 garage areas.
So did they just, for 5 years, they never went anywhere near that part of the garage? Because it would, like, decomp is gnarly.
They didn't, I know, but I guess they just thought somebody farted or something. Michael's flipping out. He sees Jan's body in this box. And Grandpa's flipping out because he doesn't want Grandma to know because it'll kill poor Grandma. So Michael calls up John and says, dude, you got to come get this box now, okay? Because we see Jan in there. And John, oh, bless him, he's there with an excuse. Do you remember what he said? He said, no, that's silly of you. It's actually this. What was John's explanation of what was in the box?
I don't remember.
He said it was a goat's head and that it was a practical joke played on him, was one thing that he told people.
Right. And they're like, well, okay, but goats don't look like Janice.
Exactly.
Somebody put a dead goat in the box.
That was a joke or something that somebody dropped off in the box. There wasn't Jan in it, but if that's what you...
John, that was Jan in the box.
So he tried to say that, and then another time he tried to say that her body showed up and he just dealt with it and it was the mob. He literally blamed the mob.
Ridiculous.
His story was he was being set up for some mob thing.
So John drives over, picks up the box, and so now Michael's story's complete, and he was right. Hilland's not buying it, right? He's got his suspicions because of what we're talking about, like the rainbow hair. He could see a face after 5 years. Like, does this box even exist? So they do their favorite move, another recorded phone call to John.
Yep.
Right?
Michael calls John and he's like, look, bro, time's up. I'm not going to jail for you. I'm going to tell the cops everything.
We seen you build a box, and Granddad and I opened the box. We found Jan in it. You know,
That's what I'm a-doing. I am not going to go to jail for you, John.
No, I wouldn't expect you to. Okay.
And I still have nightmares about seeing Jan in that box. I have a dream that she's chasing me down the street with her leg.
And beating me up with her legs. Yeah. This is pretty gruesome.
I mean, I have nightmares where Jan chased me down the road and beat me with her legs, John.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
And John's like, okay, I hear it. No. And he's like, I'm not going to jail for you. And he's like, no, of course not. No.
Yeah, he's acting like that the whole time. And we hear this call, and now Michael presses him and says, look, that was Janice. You know it's Janice, and I'm going to tell him it's Janice. And John's position is, hey, do what you got to do. But what John did do was confirm the existence of a box.
We now have corroboration that Michael's telling us at least the truth about this box because
It exists.
It exists.
This tells Hillen that there is a box somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So now he wants to find this box. So they do the math, and they're like, it would have been around 1980 when he's doing this, where he goes to pick up the box and puts it somewhere. So they decide that they're going to write letters to all the neighboring counties, like the officers, the coroner, the sheriff. They're writing to everybody in town, and they're just going to ask, hey, do you remember a story about like somebody finding a lady in a box or anything like that? And Sherry and Dee Dee are there again to personally self-address, like they're stamping the envelopes that are going out.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool. So they send these letters out and they wait.
My husband and I sat down and we made up sticky labels.
But then what happens? John disappears again.
Diane told the FBI he'd gone out one night and never came home.
So they're freaking out, like, where is this guy? What's he up to? 3 days later, he shows up covered in dirt under his fingernails like he's digging.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you remember the cockamamie story that he told Diane and Summer happened and why he's so dirty?
I don't.
The fucking FBI had him across the street in a hotel locked up against his will. And Summer's like, why are you so dirty?
And then you think, why is he dirty? No, this guy's lying. Where did he go? Why is he filthy?
They have their suspicions that John was burying Fran, that he had her body because he had like some kind of storage unit in Escondido, and that he was doing something with her body.
Yeah, and so Diane and Summer are getting worried, so she wants to leave this guy. So she comes up with a plan where she can successfully leave John without getting hurt or anything happening to her daughter. So they decide they're going to serve him with papers at an exact time, and then they'll be packed by then, and then they'll leave. But for whatever reason, these friggin' papers were served early. I mean, you should be sure when serving divorce papers if there's a specific time to do it.
Yes.
Don't you think?
Yes.
This is on the server.
This is really bad because this puts them in danger.
Yeah.
So they're panicked. And they have every right to be, because John comes back to the apartment while they're packing in a rush, and he is fuming.
Complete rage. Steps 3 at a time. She doesn't recognize him, right?
Yeah.
His face, I don't recognize him.
This is like that alter ego of his. Like, this is the weird baby cry noise John. His eyes are black and he's in a rage coming up the stairs, and Summer is terrified.
I mean, he's banging on windows, and they show a picture. He successfully busted the door open. Like, the door jamb is in shatters, right? Like, it's splintered and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as he gets in the door, like, it's clear that he's going to kill Diane. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he sees Summer, and what happens? Flip of a switch.
He snaps out of his alter ego, and he's like, oh, Summer, baby.
Yeah.
I'm
sorry.
Let's talk
Let's
about it. And she's like, but
Uh-oh.
that's the moment I was talking about earlier. Her being there saved her mom's life, because he, I guess, doesn't kill kids.
No, but what I have questions about is why that he moved back in with them and they got back together.
Mm-hmm.
So even after this event, and the door had to be paid to be fixed, and she was almost going to die, he's back in the house. Now, again, Diane's saying, like, I'm just playing it safe, right? Which I guess I see, but I felt like you were already out. You did the papers thing. It's around this time that Detective Mansu gets a call from about to be retiring sheriff in a town in Indiana, who says, hey, I was opening the mail today. I saw this letter where you're asking about a lady in a box. He says, you're in luck. I was a rookie patrolman in 80. I remember when this happened. It's burned in my brain. We called it the lady in the box. We buried the box in a pauper's grave. Like, the box still exists. We buried it. So this is, I mean, the box is found. We're losing our minds right now, right, Kate?
Amazing. It's amazing. And this actually blows Hillen's mind, because he describes what they found in that box, and that Janice was wrapped in like the Shroud of Turin.
Yeah.
So the imprint of her face on the cloth, and that covering her hair was this plastic bag that had kind of disintegrated, and the colors from the bag went all over her hair in a rainbow-like pattern.
Yeah.
And Hillen's like, holy shit, Michael was telling the truth.
Yeah, and then another thing that we know Michael's telling the truth about is, well, so for one, they got to exhume this body, right? So they do that, and we see pictures of it. So they're going through it, and this is when my mom was like, Hillen's, well, anyway, he says this straight out of a movie, but anyway, more on that later. Hillen is taking the stuff out, and he sees what is almost a complete set of bones for a skeleton, right? But he notices that they are indeed severed below the kneecap. This is confirmation number 2 that Michael's telling the truth. Because remember, he said, I had a dream that Janice's lifeless body was beating me up with her legs. So this is another confirmation. Michael's telling the truth, and Hillen's is quick to point out, let's give Michael a shout out here, because he did come forward. Right?
Yes. However, I felt like they were giving Michael a little too much credit, and he doesn't get any points from me because he may have gotten the case solved, but he didn't go to the cops when he first saw Janice in that box. And because of that, John was able to murder Fran and manipulate who knows how many more women.
Yeah.
And he could have stopped the killer right then and there, and he didn't because Grandpa told him, no, Grandma will die. Don't blame Grandma.
Yeah, like it'll kill your grandma.
Don't blame a woman who is who's dead now, who doesn't have a say in this and probably didn't know anything about it. It's like that's on him.
But wait, she clearly finds out about it though, right? Because she's the one who busted up that police interview.
See, I thought that was Grandpa that busted up that police interview.
It's Grandma.
Okay, so then
It's Grandma.
See? I'm not happy about that whole family.
That's fair. I'm not giving Michael points. I guess I don't think less of him. Do I? Look, I'm glad he did, because without it, we'd be nowhere, I suppose. But look, I'm with you. He should have done it absolutely the first time. Who knows, the family dynamic, whatever. We don't want to kill Grandma. And the Shroud of Turin thing.
Yeah.
Come on. I saw eye sockets in a place where a nose goes. That's it. I didn't see Janice's face in there.
It was almost like the Shroud of Turin, where you could see her eye sockets and you could see her mouth.
Oh, I only know it as a reference about a Jesus thing. I don't actually know the deets.
It's
that his face appears in like a loaf of bread or something?
No, it's that they think it is a shroud that was used to wrap Jesus. So you see his face on it.
Oh!
I don't see Janice's face in it.
Yeah.
I get that they see it, so that's why I'm saying it's there, but I don't see that.
Yeah. And Hillen, he buys it. I've heard him tell the story a few times, okay?
I could see her face in the dress. It was like looking at Jan, like she was there with us, and it was chilling to see it.
He's convinced it looks just like her, and he's convinced some other people felt the same way, and let's get to it, because in October of 2000, Janice's body is ID'd. They sent those bones out to the FBI headquarters. They checked the DNA, and they also found out some awesome stuff. But anyway, so now this means we can arrest John. And now Hillen can complete one of the promises that he made to Sherry and to John at the same time. Do you remember this?
No.
Hillen calls Sherry to tell her that John is locked up. He goes, hey, I got something you want to hear. He holds his phone to the cell door as the gate slams shut.
Oh, yes. Clink.
He said, I have something I think you want to hear, and I heard a clink. And he said he's behind bars.
No.
Yeah.
He gave you a sound effect for the moment.
Clink.
Clink. Baller move.
I mean, was that when he was seeing John for the first time too? That's how they set this up. AC reacts as if he did it to John on the phone with Sherry. That's pretty awesome.
It could have been that he was just at the jail and did it to a random cell.
Yeah.
But I love it.
Still love it. Yeah, that was great. So fast forward to the trial, July 2001. They're not allowed to mention Fran at all, which is concerning, right?
Yeah, Dee Dee and Sherry, they're a little upset that this is just about Janice, but they are there every day of the trial, and, they're like, well, if he's locked up for this, that's the best we get, fine. We just want to see it happen.
Yeah, they do want him off the streets, whatever it takes. And it's this point we meet the DA, and we learn that she not only brought that box out so the jurors could see it, she left the damn thing there all trial.
Just sitting out there
cool.
for everyone to see.
That was cool.
So crazy.
That was awesome.
And once the box was identified, it sat in the courtroom throughout the entire trial.
Oh, that was such a great move.
The drama.
And actually it works.
Oh, it works.
They found him guilty. Like, even with no Fran Smith, they found him guilty of Janice Hartman's murder. Boom. So he gets 15 years to life, and it sounds like we're sitting pretty. This could be the end of the case. Guy's in jail. He's never going to get paroled, right? But then what happens? In November of 2019,
I don't remember.
The prosecutor's office of Mercer County offered John the most asinine, absurd deal in the history of deals, where they say to him, hey, they were going to get to try him again. Try him for Fran specifically, because for whatever reason, they filed murder charges on him in like 2016, 2019. Sherry and Dee Dee, we're set. We're going to get our trial. Now Fran's going to get some peace. But the prosecutors go to John Smith and offer him a deal of immunity, where in return, he just has to say what he did with Fran Smith's body. Not where it is, not how he did it, just how he got rid of it, right?
This is so bad.
What do you make of this? I can't
believe they didn't have any measures in place, because he just says, well, I put it in a dumpster at my work.
Yeah.
And that's not true. And everyone knows it's not true. And he doesn't have to tell the truth. All he had to do was give that fake answer. And everyone's scratching their heads like, how did this happen?
Yeah, because none of that is new information. We knew that he got rid of her body and he killed her. We've already found him guilty of that.
Hillen's like, there's no way he took her body to work in broad daylight and put it in a dumpster that everybody uses, and that was that.
Yeah. And it reminds me of Bethany Vanished, when the killer hid the body in the tree bag. But that made more sense because residents were given tree bags to take their trees out to throw them out. So that's the only way a public trash could be used, I think.
Right.
Because the way that John's suggesting it ain't true.
Totally.
The prosecutor's office, their response is, we wanted closure for the family, and they felt that it was just too big of a hit that when they were retrying him, they weren't going to be able to mention Janice.
Well, it worked the first time.
Yes, you're right. And that's what they were saying. But they said, we just, we wanted to give him the closure that we could. Well, you didn't do it.
No.
You didn't do it. Very frustrating, because now he has immunity. His next parole, he has a parole hearing in 2029, okay?
He's not going to get out. There's no way.
I have 2 ways that will guarantee he stays in forever. But before we talk about those deeds, Kate, I think we got some lists.
All right.
Hey, man.
Kate's unnamed list. We do have a Florida connection.
Yep.
So John and Fran met at work in Florida.
They built a house in Florida right next to Fran's mother's place.
And Janice's other brother is in the military. So that's the next thing on my list.
You're right.
Florida
Oh my God, you're
and
right.
military. It counts.
Ross is in the military, he said, so I don't know where we would find him.
That's 2.
I mean, we don't know what branch of military, but
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Not to get on that list, just got to be military. And boy, what were you thinking about? Summer had some tears, didn't she?
She did.
Summer had some tears for AC.
But she didn't apologize for them.
She didn't. I mean, it was set up to be. I was waiting for it, weren't you? They were really letting it ride. I was like, here it comes, here it comes, here it comes.
I liked Summer. She
was sweet.
reminded me of somebody. There was something very familiar about her.
That's your list. It's a killer list. On to Kurt's Kick-Ass List.
Kick-ass list.
Now, I technically only had one of my list items hit tonight, but it only hit about 3 or 4 times.
Yes, it did.
And AC said it twice, okay? I've got it for you right now. She goes, this is like a horror movie.
This is like a horror movie.
Okay? And then later she goes, this is straight out of a movie.
This is straight out of a movie.
Those are both from AC. That's pretty sweet, huh? And you know what? She was right both times, because it was about the box and then about the breaking down the door.
Those are out of very famous movies.
Yeah?
What's in the box?
But AC said that twice. I didn't only just have the one, I had another one. Dansbury was talking about how the interview is just like on TV. That first one where John wouldn't take his coat off for 9 hours.
Kind of did all the things that you see on TV.
And that was pretty sweet. And then, this isn't a movie or TV show, but they happen in them. And the AC said you gave him a sound effect. That was cool. I liked it when AC said,
Give you a sound effect for the moment.
Clank.
that was sweet.
Clink.
Clink. All right. So those are all of my list items.
Kurt,
And now, Kateline.
come on.
Yeah.
We are dying with anticipation. Let's hear all the FF and book deets.
Okay. All right. So, the Forensic Files episode focuses on Fran and Janice. Got nothing to do with Diane. So I get why Dateline might not have talked about this, but I've got to tell you more details about the discovery of the box and when they got rid of it. That is so fascinating. okay? But before I do that, I'm going to give you the biggest one, okay? Is at one point in the investigation, Michael had been telling people, he told a bunch of lies about whether or not John killed Janice. And this was all before Michael spilled the deets about the box. Like, this was back when Michael wasn't talking. And they're just going on hearsay that they heard around town. That, oh, she's probably buried at one of her properties because, like, the family had properties that they rented. And around the time when he went to go pick up the box, his grandpa was building an apartment unit at a place nearby. Okay, so when Hillen hears about this, he goes, all right, well, let's investigate this apartment. So they go there with a cadaver-sniffing dog with the little device. They see there's human remains down there potentially. So they get out the device. They dig up this concrete. They dig it all up, and they don't find a thing. Or, as Dateline and FF would lead you to believe, they don't find anything.
But they found nothing.
Because guess what they found, Kateline? A fragment of a tooth. Of a human tooth. And they confirmed that it's none of the women we know about in his life now.
Oh, man.
There's a tooth fragment.
How many women are out there?
Okay? There were 2 unidentified women in those pictures that they wanted to talk to because these could be the body. But one of them did die, but it was from cancer, and John had nothing to do with it. They're still trying to find this other one. But guess what? This guy has 2 Jane Does on him because later they're investigating John's storage unit, and in there they find scraps of a fucking skull. Also, human remains.
And not Fran or Janice's.
No, and it's confirmed. And it was also confirmed that it was nobody. They tested everybody else in the storage unit, like against their DNA, like went to them, same kind of thing. How about that?
Kurt.
That's big stuff.
How many women?
Now, do you think Dateline should have mentioned that? My feeling is, if it's not in the story they're telling.
They had to cut it for time because, like, this is a long episode and it could have gone on, it sounds like, for even longer. And unless they were going to make it like a 2-night special, they have to cut some stuff. But there is enough stuff here to make this a whole documentary series.
Including the details of the box. So I take you back to that Thanksgiving in the 70s. It was an Ohio-Michigan football game on a Saturday. Michael's like, where's John? He's not watching the football game with us. So he goes out to the garage. He sees John working on a box. But like it's a weird box. It's shaped weird where it's shallow.
Michael found this very perplexing and didn't know what to think of it.
And he says to him, he says, John, what are you doing? And he says, well, Janice broke up with me and I'm just going to store her things in here. And he says, but that's a shit box. He says those words. That's a shit box. It's not deep enough. What are you doing? And on FF, they're talking about how, like, he should have been building a chest that's deep for clothing when you store clothes, apparently.
If you're going to build a box to store things, you need to build it deep like a chest. And John became angry with his brother at this time.
That's why he's suspicious about this box. Then he goes out there later and sees him crying about it. Now, 5 years later, when the grandpa finds the box and they tell John to come pick it up, he comes over and he picks up the box. Do you know what he was driving at that time?
No.
A souped-up black Corvette.
Okay.
And now we know why it was such a box and why he built it in the dimensions that he did. Because guess what fits exactly in that black Corvette but a 4x2 by 18-inch box?
Michael said John put the coffin in his black Corvette and drove away.
And now you're thinking, how do you know where's the car? Guess what? The guy who bought it 20 years ago is a collector. It's been driven like 5 times. It was in a garage, sitting immaculately.
John Smith's old Corvette sports car was now in the possession of a car collector in New Jersey who had kept it in pristine condition.
And you could see in there, they presented this at trial, there were scrape marks that would correspond with the box. So he built that box specifically, those dimensions, to fit in his Corvette.
So he could drive around with her in his car all the time.
The FBI agent noted scratches on the dash as well as the rear window of that Corvette, which would be consistent with the edges of a box that size being placed in the vehicle.
Think about the relationship between John and Michael, and I just love that John's downfall was that he didn't think that his dumb brother was going to be like, but that's not how you build a box. That's pretty awesome.
Kurt, I might have to add this Corvette to my list.
Okay. What up, future Kurt? Back at it. This box, okay? I'm very, very disappointed in the production team of Dateline because their fake box that they made for the cold open to show like, ooh, what's in the box? It's huge. Okay, I mean, it's double the size of what the actual box was. And the reason why I'm a stickler about it is because the size of that box is very important to the story. Like, that's why it fit in his Corvette, because he made it that small and shallow. And you seriously, you look at this Dateline box though at the top of the episode, you could fit 2 people in it. Easy peasy. So, another shout out for FF, because in their recreations, you can bet they follow those dimensions proper. Okay, 4 foot by 2 foot by 18 inches. Come on! The numbers were in the book! Future Kurt, out of here. Also, oh, wait, I got more, Kate. I'm sorry, this is a long one.
Yeah.
So the reason why FF did it is because they want to talk about how they identified the body. So they're really getting in on the forensics and stuff. And the way that they found out, the first step that they did to confirm those bones were Janice's, is that they measured the femur bone, and there's like some sort of math you can do to determine a person's height if you know the femur bone. And so that's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. But also, sneaking it on the list, because femur bone is very burbsy, if you remember, right?
Yes.
Femur just happens to be a human thigh bone, right? Look at the size of this thing. You think this came off a chicken or something?
And he's yelling and stuff. That's big time. Femur bone is very burbs, right?
Good, honey.
Good, honey.
So there's that. But we also learn how the bones were cut, and it was with a serrated knife, so it could have been a steak knife. And you could tell because the way that he carved it, I know, this is it. So while we're learning all these terms, here are some cool things I learned in the book. When a body liquefies, that's called glop. Isn't that cool? Okay.
That seems very insensitive.
Hey, that's the stuff in the box. That's what's in there. That's glop.
Wow.
And also, kerf is the false starts when you're cutting something and you do like a test line. That's called a kerf. The author, Michael Freeman, we know him. He wrote the book about Harold Henthorne that I read.
Right.
I mean, he's like the OG. I read that book.
Yeah.
That's him.
I love that the guy who wrote the book about it is like, when did he have time to perform CPR?
Here's something cool. I posted about it on the IG about doing research. Our inside scooper, Deej, reached out and said, hey, I work with Michael Freeman. He's a great dude.
Wow.
So that's pretty sweet. Yep. Okay. And now the last thing. Oh, I know. This might blow your mind a little bit. Is because we were talking about how John and Fran were happily married and they just come home from their honeymoon. Mm-hmm. Incorrect. I find out in the book that twice John just up and said he wanted a divorce. Just out of the blue. And Fran is there with her hip cast on going, what? Where's this coming from? So then he comes home and it's like, I'm so sorry. I made a mistake. I'm so sorry. So they work on it. And then a few months later, it happens again. But this time he takes all his stuff with him. So he was looking to ditch Fran, and Fran was like, just do it. Let's break up then. Like, Fran was like, fine.
Wow.
Like, she wanted to fight for her marriage, but so I feel like it's just when he gets sick of her and doesn't want her around anymore, he does something about it. Because he's like, oh, this lady with her cast, we can't go out at night. She can't walk down the stairs. What do you think?
I wonder what it is, because this seems to be his pattern. When he doesn't want to be with people anymore, he just murders them instead of, breaking up amicably and moving on like a normal person would do. What is it? And what is the reason? I would be curious to know why he wants to divorce these women.
I don't know. Okay, so 2 more. In the 70s, when John was at work, he would dress really flamboyantly. And he wore this watch that was bejeweled and had a J on it. And everybody at work, because he worked in a place that had a warehouse, and it's the 70s. So he gets called into the office because the boss is like, you got to stop wearing that watch to work. Everybody's making fun of you. People think you're gay, don't wear that kind of thing. Uh-huh. Is that what you want people to think? So he gets called in the office and you're not allowed to wear that watch anymore. Get it out of here.
And on the tension scale, Rube.
Another work thing. While Sherry's making all these calls saying, hey, don't hire this guy, there was a locker room, and his fellow employees took a mannequin and dumped ketchup on it and put it in his locker. Haha, you're a murderer.
Wow. And he wasn't angry?
Well, it didn't flip him out or anything. Now, here's the last little bit, and it's pretty wild, and I think it confirms the potential of him being a serial killer, because if this ain't a trophy, I don't know what is. I talked to you about this watch. The bejeweled watch with the J on it that was too gay for him to wear to work. Mm-hmm. He bought Janice a watch that was bejeweled with a J on it before they were married as a gift. So that watch was Janice's. She was said to be wearing it during the last time that she was seen. Okay? So that guy was walking around wearing this woman's watch. I mean, J for John, J for Janice. But it's his trophy. It's like how he carries it around with him. And now here's the wild part, and I don't know why we haven't seen a picture. because that watch is in police custody because he gave it to a friend and Hilland found that friend and she says, oh, I still got that watch. You want it? And Hilland's like, yes, please. Because it proves that he has an article of clothing from the last time that Jan was seen alive.
And they had already been divorced at that point, so he wouldn't have seen her.
Right.
Unless he murdered her.
I think we should wrap it up, Kateline, because this is going to be a beast.
It is, but a good one.
But a good one, right? I'm feeling good about it. Next week, I don't know, but we'll be ready for it. I'm Kurt Money.
I'm Kateline.
I'm Lester Holt. For all of us, I'm Lester Holt. Good night.
It's getting hot in the kitchen.